The bold proposition, in the vast expanse of the galaxy, where countless species had ventured into the unknown, the human race stood as one of the youngest but most ambitious. Among them, Walter Morris was renowned for his audacity. As Earth's top diplomat, he was no stranger to impossible challenges. When he stepped onto the alien world of Pandar, he knew he was walking into a den of skeptics. The Pandrians were a cautious species, methodical in their actions and slow to trust. Their society, advanced and highly structured, had little patience for the brashness often associated with humanity. Walter's mission was clear: negotiate a trade deal that would secure Earth's future. The stakes were astronomical. Pandar held a monopoly on a rare element known as novium, a mineral essential to powering the most advanced technologies in the galaxy. But there was a catch. The only known source of novium was located in an asteroid belt so treacherous that no Pandrian had ever dared to mine it. The asteroids were a swirling maelstrom of jagged rocks and deadly radiation, a place where even the most advanced ships had been lost without a trace. As Walter sat across from Varys, the head of the Pandrian Council, he could sense the disdain in the alien's gaze. Varys, like many of his kind, viewed humans as reckless, driven by greed and ambition rather than wisdom and caution. The room was thick with tension as Varys spoke, his voice laced with skepticism. "You humans are bold, but boldness alone will not protect you from the dangers of the Novium Belt. It is suicide to attempt to mine it." Walter leaned forward, his steel-blue eyes locking onto Varys's. "Impossible, you say? For you, maybe. But for us, it's just another challenge. We don't believe in the impossible. We believe in overcoming it." His words hung in the air, a challenge wrapped in confidence. Varys's reptilian eyes narrowed, but Walter pressed on. "We propose a deal. We'll mine the novium, and in return we want exclusive trading rights with Pandar. If we succeed, Earth gains a valuable ally and access to resources that could change the course of history. If we fail, well, we won't fail." The room fell silent as the Pandrian Council whispered among themselves. The proposition was audacious, bordering on madness. But Walter knew he had them. The Pandrians' need for novium was as great as their fear of the asteroid belt. After what felt like an eternity, Varys spoke. "Very well, human. We accept your terms. But know this. Many have tried to mine the novium, and all have failed. Do not expect our sympathy when you join them." With the deal struck, Walter wasted no time assembling a team. He handpicked the best and brightest, the most skilled miners, engineers, and pilots Earth had to offer. These were men and women who had faced death in the cold vacuum of space and lived to tell the tale. At the helm of this daring expedition was Captain Jack Holloway, a veteran pilot known for his cool demeanor under pressure, and Samantha Carter, a brilliant engineer with a knack for solving the most complex problems with nothing more than duct tape and sheer willpower. As the crew prepared to embark on their mission, Walter remained on Pandar, overseeing the negotiations and ensuring that the Pandrians honored their end of the bargain. He knew that the real battle wasn't just in the asteroid belt, it was here, in the council chambers, where politics and power plays could be as deadly as any asteroid. Varys watched Walter closely, his suspicions never far from the surface. The Pandrian leader seemed almost eager to see the humans fail, to use their failure as proof of humanity's arrogance, and to solidify his own position within the council. But Walter was no fool. He had faced worse odds before, and he wasn't about to let a bunch of xenophobic aliens intimidate him. As the human ship lifted off, its engines roaring as it ascended into the cold void of space, Walter whispered a silent prayer to whatever gods might be listening. He prayed for the crew's safety, for their success, and for the strength to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The galaxy was watching, and the outcome of this mission could change the course of history. The ship, a sleek vessel outfitted with the latest in human technology, sliced through the darkness of space like a knife. Inside, the crew was a mixture of nervous energy and steely determination. Jack Holloway sat in the captain's chair, his hands steady on the controls as he guided the ship toward the asteroid belt. Samantha Carter was already at work, her fingers flying over the control panels as she ran diagnostics on the ship's systems. "All systems go, Captain," she reported, her voice calm but with an edge of excitement. "We're ready." Jack nodded, his eyes never leaving the view screen. All right, people, listen up. This isn't going to be easy, but we're here to prove what humanity is capable of. Let's show these Pandrians what we're made of. The ship shuddered as it entered the asteroid belt, the hull groaning under the strain of the intense radiation and gravitational anomalies. Razor-sharp fragments of rock pinged off the ship's shields, each impact sending tremors through the vessel. Samantha's voice crackled over the intercom. Shields at 70% and holding, but the radiation levels are off the charts. Keep an eye on those levels, Jack responded, his voice steady. We can't afford to have any system failures. As the crew settled into their roles, the enormity of their task began to sink in. They were attempting something no one had ever done before, mining a substance so dangerous that it had claimed the lives of everyone who had tried before them. But failure was not an option. The fate of Earth depended on their success. Back on Pander, Walter paced the negotiation room, his mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. He had put everything on the line for this mission, and now all he could do was wait and hope that his faith in human ingenuity wasn't misplaced. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see if these daring humans could achieve the impossible and prove their true mettle. The mission was underway, and the first steps had been taken. But as the human crew ventured deeper into the asteroid belt, they had no idea of the challenges that lay ahead. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and not everyone was eager to see the humans succeed. Into the unknown. The mining ship, now fully entrenched within the deadly asteroid belt, navigated through a sea of tumbling rocks and cosmic debris. The atmosphere aboard was tense, each crew member hyper-aware of the precariousness of their situation. Samantha Carter monitored the radiation levels, her brow furrowed with concern as the readings climbed higher. "Captain, we're nearing the outer edge of the Novium-rich zone," Samantha reported, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. "But the radiation is spiking. If we push much further, we risk critical system failures." Jack Holloway, ever the pragmatist, weighed the options. They had come too far to turn back now. "We proceed with caution. Keep the shields at maximum and divert non-essential power to the engines. We need to maintain as much control as possible." The ship's engines hummed as power was redirected, and the vessel surged forward into the heart of the asteroid field. Outside, the rocks grew larger and more erratic, their surfaces glinting ominously in the sparse light of distant stars. The crew worked in near silence, the only sounds the beeping of consoles and the occasional murmur of communication. As they approached the first Novium-rich asteroid, the ship's sensors began to ping wildly. "We've got a big one, Captain," Samantha announced, her fingers flying over the controls to stabilize the ship. It's dense with Novium, but it's surrounded by a field of highly unstable debris. Jack scanned the readings, his jaw set in determination. "We'll take it. Deploy the mining drones and have them collect as much Novium as they can carry. We'll stay here just long enough to get what we need, and then we're out." The mining drones, sleek and efficient machines designed to operate in the harshest of environments, launched from the ship's cargo bay and made their way toward the asteroid. Their robotic arms extended as they began to drill into the rocky surface, extracting the precious Novium and storing it within their cargo holds. Back on the ship, the crew monitored the drone's progress, their anxiety mounting with each passing minute. The radiation levels continued to rise, and the asteroid's debris field grew more volatile, with chunks of rock breaking off and hurtling through space at dangerous speeds. "Captain, we've got incoming!" shouted one of the crew members as a massive chunk of debris broke off from the asteroid and headed straight for the ship. "Evasive maneuvers!" Jack barked, gripping the armrests of his chair as the ship lurched to the side, narrowly avoiding the deadly projectile. The crew was thrown off balance, and alarms blared as the ship's shields took a hit. "Shields down to 60%, Samantha reported, her voice strained as she worked to stabilize the ship. "We can't take much more of this. Drones, return to the ship immediately," Jack ordered. "We've got enough Novium for now. We're getting out of here." The drones retracted their arms and sped back toward the ship, their cargo holds brimming with the precious element. As they docked, the ship's engines roared to life, and Jack maneuvered them out of the asteroid's debris field. avoiding more incoming rocks with expert precision. But just as they thought they were in the clear, the ship's sensors began to pick up an even greater threat. "Captain, we've got a solar flare incoming," Samantha warned, her eyes wide with alarm. "It's massive. We need to find shelter, or we're done for." Jack's mind raced as he considered their options. The radiation from the flare would be catastrophic, especially with their shields already compromised. "Can we use the Novium to shield ourselves?" he asked, desperation creeping into his voice. Samantha's eyes lit up with sudden realization. "Yes! If we can coat the hull with Novium, it might be enough to deflect the radiation. But we'll have to act fast." "Do it," Jack ordered, his voice firm. "Everyone to the cargo bay. We need to get that Novium on the hull now." The crew sprang into action, working with frantic urgency as they coated the ship's exterior with the raw Novium. Time was running out, and the solar flare was fast approaching, its lethal radiation already beginning to penetrate the ship's weakened shields. As the last of the Novium was applied, the crew scrambled back inside, sealing the airlocks just as the solar flare struck. The ship shuddered violently, the hull groaning under the immense pressure. But miraculously, the Novium held, its unique properties absorbing and deflecting the deadly radiation. The crew let out a collective sigh of relief, but their celebration was short-lived. The intense radiation from the flare had exacerbated the already unstable gravitational anomalies in the asteroid belt, causing it to churn with renewed fury. Massive chunks of rock began hurtling toward the ship, their jagged edges glinting menacingly in the starlight. Jack gripped the controls, his knuckles white as he swerved and dodged the incoming projectiles. "Hold on tight, everyone," he called out, his voice steady but strained. "We're not out of this yet." As the ship weaved through the deadly gauntlet, the crew worked tirelessly to keep the systems online. Samantha rerouted power from non-essential systems to the engines and shields, desperately trying to keep them operational as they made their escape. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they broke free of the asteroid field, the deadly rocks falling away behind them. The ship was battered and bruised, but it had survived. They had done the impossible. They had mined Novium from the most dangerous place in the galaxy and lived to tell the tale. But as they set a course back to Pandar, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that their troubles were far from over. They had faced the dangers of the asteroid belt and survived, but now they would have to navigate the treacherous waters of intergalactic politics. And if there was one thing Jack knew, it was that the greatest dangers often came not from the stars, but from those who walked among them. The betrayal unveiled as the human ship made its way back to Pandar. The crew was filled with a mix of relief and exhaustion. They had accomplished the impossible, mining the Novium and escaping the asteroid belt with their lives. But their victory was tempered by the knowledge that their mission was far from over. Walter Morris had remained on Pandar, overseeing the negotiations and keeping a close eye on Varys and the Pandrian leadership. He had expected resistance, even sabotage, but what he had uncovered was far more sinister. The Pandrians had not only doubted humanity's ability to mine the Novium, they had actively worked to ensure their failure. Varys, it seemed, had his own agenda. He had secretly supplied a faction within the Pandrian government with the means to sabotage the human mission. They had planted explosives on the human ship, intending to destroy it and claim the Novium for themselves. But their plan had failed, thanks to the crew's quick thinking and resourcefulness. Walter confronted Varys in the council chambers, his voice low and dangerous. "You tried to sabotage our mission. You planted explosives on our ship and nearly got my people killed. This is an act of war." Varys, ever the politician, remained calm, his reptilian eyes cold and calculating. "You have no proof of these accusations, human. I suggest you choose your words carefully." But Walter was not easily intimidated. He had come prepared. With a flick of his wrist, he activated a holo projector, displaying footage of the Pandrian agents planting the explosives on the human ship. The council members gasped, and Varys's calm facade cracked ever so slightly. "This is your proof," Walter said, his voice steady. "The Pandrian government conspired against us. You wanted to ensure our failure so you could claim the Novium for yourselves. The council erupted into chaos, with members shouting and pointing fingers. Varys, realizing that his plan had been exposed, attempted to regain control of the situation. This was the work of a rogue faction, he insisted, his voice rising above the din. I had no knowledge of their actions. Walter wasn't buying it. You can spin this however you like, Varys, but the evidence is clear. The Pandrian government acted against us, and there will be consequences. The council's leader, an elder Pandrian with scales the color of aged copper, finally spoke up, his voice calm but firm. Enough. This matter is too grave to be decided here. We will convene an emergency session to discuss the ramifications of these actions. Until then, the humans are under our protection. Varys glared at Walter, his eyes burning with hatred. This isn't over, human. You've made a powerful enemy today. Walter met his gaze, unflinching. I've faced worse. As the council members filed out of the chamber, Walter allowed himself a small sigh of relief. He had won this battle, but the war was far from over. The Pandrians were not to be trusted, and he knew that they would stop at nothing to get what they wanted. Back on the ship, the crew was unaware of the political storm brewing on Pandor. They were focused on getting the Novium back to Earth, where it could be used to power the next generation of human technology. But as they neared the planet, they received an urgent message from Walter. Captain Holloway, this is Walter Morris. We have a situation. The Pandrians have betrayed us. They planted explosives on your ship, and they're likely planning to take the Novium by force. You need to be on high alert. Jack's eyes narrowed as he listened to the message. Understood, Mr. Morris. We'll be ready. He turned to his crew, his expression grim. You heard the man. We've been betrayed. Prepare for battle stations. We're not out of this yet. The crew sprang into action, their earlier exhaustion forgotten as they prepared for the possibility of an attack. The ship's weapon systems were activated, and the shields were reinforced with the remaining Novium. They were ready for whatever the Pandrians might throw at them. As the ship entered orbit around Pandor, they were greeted by the sight of a Pandrian fleet hovering in the distance. The tension on the bridge was palpable as they waited for the first sign of hostility. But instead of attacking, the Pandrian ships simply held their position, watching. Jack didn't trust it. Keep the shields up and weapons ready. They're up to something. Walter's voice crackled over the comms. They're trying to force us into a position where we have to surrender. But we're not going to give them the satisfaction. I'm working on a plan to get you out of there safely. The crew waited, the minutes stretching into what felt like hours. Finally, Walter's voice came through again. We're going to use the Novium to create a distraction. I need you to vent some of it into the atmosphere. It'll create a light show that will give you the cover you need to escape. Jack nodded. You heard him, Samantha. Vent the Novium. Samantha hesitated for a moment. Captain, that's risky. We might not have enough left to power the ship. Jack met her gaze, his expression hard. Do it. It's our only chance. Samantha nodded and began the process. Moments later, the ship's sensors picked up a massive spike in energy as the Novium was released into the atmosphere. The sky above Pandor lit up with a dazzling display of colors, drawing the attention of the Pandrian fleet. Now, Jack shouted, engage the engines and get us out of here. The ship's engines roared to life, and they shot out of orbit, leaving the Pandrians behind. The crew cheered as they realized they had made it, but their victory was bittersweet. They had narrowly escaped, but the Pandrians would not forget this slight. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and they had just made a powerful enemy. As they set course for Earth, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The Pandrians would come for them, and when they did, they would have to be ready. The crew had proven their mettle, but the real test was yet to come. The return to Earth, the journey back to Earth, was filled with a sense of both triumph and trepidation. The human crew had accomplished what many thought was impossible. They had mined the Novium and survived the deadly asteroid belt. But the mission had come at a great cost. Their ship was damaged, their supplies were running low, and they were now marked by the Pandrians as enemies. As they neared Earth, the crew began preparations for re-entry. The atmosphere aboard the ship was tense as they ran diagnostics and checked systems. The Novium they had collected was secured in the cargo bay, its value immeasurable but also a potential target for those who sought to claim it. Jack Holloway, ever the vigilant captain, kept a close eye on the ship's sensors, scanning for any sign of pursuit. He knew the Pandrians wouldn't give up so easily, and he didn't want to be caught off guard. "Stay sharp, everyone. We're not out of the woods yet." Samantha Carter, who had been instrumental in keeping the ship together during their ordeal, was running a final systems check when she noticed something unusual. "Captain, I'm picking up an anomaly in our long-range sensors. It looks like debris, but it's not from the asteroid belt." Jack frowned as he examined the readings. "Could be a trap. Bring us in closer, but keep the shields up." The ship approached the anomaly cautiously, and as they drew nearer, the crew gasped at what they saw. It wasn't debris, but a derelict ship, ancient and massive, floating aimlessly in space. Its hull was covered in strange markings, and it seemed to pulse with an eerie, otherworldly energy. "What in the world is that?" Jack muttered, his eyes wide with disbelief. Samantha's voice was barely a whisper. "It's incredible. I've never seen anything like it." The crew was entranced by the sight of the ancient ship, but Jack's instincts told him to be cautious. "Let's not get too close. We don't know what we're dealing with here." As they circled the derelict vessel, Samantha noticed something else. "Captain, there's something inside. It's faint, but I'm picking up a power source. It's not like anything we've encountered before." Jack hesitated. The mission had been dangerous enough, and they were so close to home. But the possibility of discovering something truly extraordinary was too tempting to pass up. "All right, let's check it out. But be careful. We don't know what's in there.